Hello, my name is Clara Caldeira, and I'm presenting the paper, I Hope I Never Need One, Unpacking Stigma and Aging in Place Technology. This paper is co-authored by Novia, Nurain, and Connelly. And as you can probably tell from the title, in this project, we investigated perceptions of stigma in aging in place technology. I'm going to start with a bit of background about this topic. Aging in place systems are meant to promote well-being and successful aging, but they are often seen as stigmatizing, dehumanizing, or even a reminder of negative aspects of aging. Here in this image, we see a person with a wearable personal emergency response system, or PERS, a device that can be used to call for help in case of an emergency. This is an example of a device that is stigmatizing. Older adults tend to see it as something that could be appropriate for others, but not really for themselves. And this stigma is a known barrier for the adoption and use of this kind of technology. Even those who have these devices rarely wear them. And we are interested in finding ways to overcome this problem. So in this project, we try to understand how the attached aging stigma differs between different technology designs. And so we conducted interviews with 18 older adult participants. For those interviews, we used scenarios to illustrate a similar use case across 4 different kinds of aging in place technology. The scenarios included a description of a situation and images. The illustrations here on the left side are examples of these images. In this case, it's showing a situation where the older adult is gardening and they experience a fall. The 4 technologies that we included in the scenarios are known designs for aging in place. We have first an emergency button, which is a wearable that can be activated by the user to call for help in case of emergency. Then we also have a wearable that detects falls and automatically calls for help. We have a checking system used daily in a group of people to signal to others that the person is doing well. And the last one is a home monitoring system using sensors. And it's designed to detect unusual patterns of activity, something that could indicate an emergency and alert others. And for all of these, the scenario in the study consisted of the system being used to call for help after an emergency. So let's look at our findings. Overall, the participants believe that aging in place systems are for older adults who are frail, live alone, and have some degree of cognitive impairments. So in other words, people who already need substantial help from others, rather than a more preventative approach. There were a few differences between the 4 kinds of technologies, though, and these differences tended to be about whether the system provides the right amount of support for the individual, so not too much or not too little, and whether they would be able to use and manage the system, such as remembering to charge it as needed. So here's an overview of these differences. The home monitoring system was seen as the most appropriate for very frail older adults. And the checking system was seen as better for more independent people. But the participants thought that the same interaction could be accomplished using other systems. So this one could be an alternative for older adults with lower technology literacy. Both the emergency button and a device for fall detection were somewhere in the middle. They were associated with semi-independent people. For more independent older adults, the participants saw general purpose systems as the most appropriate, even if they are used to accomplish the exact same goals. General purpose systems would include things like smartwatches, smartphones, and so on. ICTs that are not designed specifically for older adults, but they could still be used to call for help in case of an emergency, for example, or for other features that are relevant to aging in place, such as monitoring. And so to further interpret these results, we use a classification of 3 coping strategies, or stages of aging, that was proposed by Duner and Nordström. These stages are active, adaptive, and passive coping. And older adults progress through them over time as the need for existence increases. Very briefly, the active coping strategy involves compensating for limitations to maintain independence. The adaptive coping strategy involves accepting some help, but only when absolutely necessary, while advocating for themselves. The passive stage is the point when the individual needs extensive care and they end up giving up their independence. And based on findings, we identified which kinds of technology would fit best with each different strategy. So here we have general purpose devices and checking systems as the most appropriate for the active stage, emergency response systems and fall detection devices as mostly aligned with the adaptive stage. And then lastly, for the passive stage, the home monitoring system was seen as the most appropriate one. One of the conclusions we can draw from this is that using technology that is aligned with the person's current strategy would help to mitigate the issues that are caused by aging stigma. So for example, a person who is in the adaptive stage might be open or interested in using a fall detection device, but not really willing to use a home monitoring system. But at the same time, it might be difficult or even costly to change from one system to another after the person transitions to the following stage. And then, so the question remains, how can we design systems that would not be restricted to just one of these stages? This is something that we would like to explore in future work. And one possible direction is working on flexible designs that change over time to meet users' needs. So for example, we could think about extending the functionality of a general purpose system while maintaining the form factor so that they can adapt over time. So we can think of a smartwatch that could be used initially by an older adult that's independent, and then software-based updates could make it more appropriate to the user's needs as they evolve. Or we could also think of a home security system that is updated over time to monitor the residents' activities and their well-being. Well, the paper goes into the findings and discussion in a lot more detail, so I'll invite you to take a look. I'd like to thank my co-authors and also the CI Fellows Program for supporting this research. Thank you for watching, and I'm happy to answer any questions by email or other channels.